Hello again, my little conscripts, and welcome to another Mordian Glory video. In today's episode, we shall be casting our ever-critical eye over a 10th edition Imperial Guard Codex datasheet. And this time in the crosshairs, we have got the Ogryn squad. Now, in days gone by, Ogryns were not looked upon very favourably. It was always Bullgryn this, Bullgryn that. But with recent changes, both in terms of points costs, rules and attachments, it is now time for the Ogryns to shine. And I don't mean to alarm you, but we have started to see these big lovable lads appearing in some very competitive army lists being run by some very competitive players. And one might even say that the Ogryn meta is not only incoming, it's here. A bold statement indeed. I'm going to need to back this up. So without further ado, let's protect the little ones and stomp right into this. As is tradition, let us begin with a cheeky gander at the Ogryn stat line. First up, we've got the movement value of 6 inches. On the surface, this seems fairly standard issue for the guard, but what you have to remember is Ogryns can't receive orders. This means they have no capacity for move. So you can't squeeze out an extra 3 inches of movement from them at a key point. They're going 6 inches. You could always advance them, but they don't have assault weapons. So you would be advancing, getting more movement, but you wouldn't then be able to shoot or charge. So really, if you're looking at Ogryns and in a foot slogging capacity, 6 inches is the best you're going to get. Their defensive stat line is also surprisingly fragile. Toughness 6 might look good on the surface, and if this was editions gone by, it probably would be very impressive. But this is 10th edition, where so many weapons have had their strength boosted, and Ogryn's T6 isn't enough to carry the day. What really lets them down is the fact they're only a 5+ save, the same save as a guardsman, and they don't have an invulnerable save, and they have no way of improving that save. 3 wounds, again, looks really chonky, and when combined with the fact they do have a 6-up feel no pain, can sometimes spike and mean that it takes a little bit more firepower than your opponent wants to throw at them, to deal with them. But I have found that so many people are spamming damage 3 weapons these days that you tend to find that relying on that 6-foot feel no pain is a tall order. Long story short, Ogryns are not tough. They are not durable. They're going to die if the enemy wants to kill them. And they won't even really need to bring out the big guns to do it. Enough supplementary firepower will find these guys stripped of their wounds very, very quickly. Rounding out the stat line, we've got a leadership of 7+, nothing remarkable there, and an objective control of 1, which is lower than a lot of like battle line troops, like guard squads, like Kriegers and Cadians and whatnot, but for an elite choice, pretty normal. So if Ogryns are kind of slow, they've not got good objective game, and their durability is surprisingly rubbish, well, what's the point in them? Well, Bullgryns take damage, but Ogryns do damage. Let's head over to their weapons and war gear. Now, each squad of Ogryn starts off as 3 strong, but they can be up to 6 strong. Each one of those Ogryns is going to come with a Ripper gun. You have no weapon options other than the Ripper gun. Fortunately, the Ripper gun does do double duty as both a ranged weapon and a melee weapon. Continuing with this comparison to Bullgryn for a moment, we'll start off with the melee profile of the Ripper gun. It's not actually that dissimilar to the Bullgryn Maul. You've got the same volume of attacks, you've got the same weapon skill, and you've got the same AP. The big difference though, of course, is that the Ripper gun is only strength 6, and even more importantly, it's only damage 1. Now, strength 6 will allow you to reliably beat the crap out of most infantry, and even a lot of vehicles you're going to be wounding on 5s. The issue is if Bullgryn start getting into fights with things like super heavy infantry, like Custodes. Now, ideally, you wouldn't have your Ogryn or your Ogryn, I would say, in a melee fight with Custodians, expecting to like win the fight. But the big difference between Ogryn and Ogryn in that situation is Ogryn just die like piss because they've got no save and not enough wounds, and they're not going to be able to, even if they charge, they're going to be winning on like 4s. It's just not good. But Ogryn, at least, if they get into a tangle with Custodians, might be able to hold out for a round or two because they've got the invulnerable save, they've got the reduction in damage, they've got the feel no pain on top of all of that. So really, you want to see your Ogryn, you want to see their melee potential as a bonus. It's something that might be able to finish the enemy off once they've been blasted. When we talk about blasting, we are not exaggerating because the Ripper Gun's range profile is where this unit starts to come alive.
There's been an influx of green Ogrons into the regiment.
Now the Ogryn may only have a ballistic skill 4+, but each Ripper Gun has the potential to put out 6 shots because you've got 3 here and then you've got rapid fire 3. From a full squad, that's going to be 36 shots at strength 5, AP -1, damage 2. Each one of these guys is basically coming equipped with like a double heavy bolter. Now you might think AP -1 is kind of trash. I often do trash AP -1 weapons, but this is where the ability of the Ogryn comes in. Point blank barrage. Each time model in this unit makes the range that targets the closest eligible target improve the AP characteristic of that attack by 1. This means that actually Ogryns are going to be AP -2. That completely changes the name of the game. That essentially lets you cut through cover and start knocking enemy units down a peg. If you combine this with something that can actually remove cover from the enemy unit, like Hellhounds, you could be having Ogryns just kicking people down onto those inevitable 4+ invulnerable saves that everyone seems to have. But even without it, it's AP -2. It's a huge volume of fire. It's just a lot of potential damage. It is the definition of throw enough shit at the wall and you'll see what sticks. But a lot of what I am saying here isn't particularly new. It's capabilities that Ogryns had in the Index, and they've essentially just been ported over to the Codex. So what's changed? Why are they becoming so popular? Firstly, it's points cost. Ogryns are dirt cheap. I mean, this might be the cheapest they've been in a long time, but 3 of them are only 60 points, and a big squad of 6 of them, it's only 130. You compare that to Ogryn, who are coming in at 220 points, an eye-watering amount. And just from a bang for buck perspective, Ogryn are looking very attractive. But in addition to this, and arguably the much more important factor, is the fact that we now have a codex, and with the codex comes multiple detachments, and Ogryns can finally benefit from some detachment rules. For example, in the siege detachment, you can use smoke shells on your Ogryns. This helps to mitigate some of their durability issues, giving them an extra -1 to hit on top of the fact that they do have that feel no pain. And if you take a big squad of 6 and there is just like pure wound density there, can start making them feel a bit more durable. And we talked about being able to remove cover. Well, incendiary bombardment is an okay option. Now, the reason I say it's okay is because remember, you can only use incendiary bombardment from enemy units that are more than 12 inches away from every model from your army that is on the battlefield. So you would have to the enemy would have to start 12 inches away, and then you'd be able to move into rapid fire range if you wanted to get the maximum blast. Or, if that wasn't the case, you'd have to incendiary bombardment them and do them from like a long range bit of firepower, which obviously reduce your rapid fire capabilities. So really, I think with Siege, you'd be looking at smoke shells with Ogryns. But the point is that before the Codex came out, you got no detachment rule whatsoever, no benefit on your Ogryns. Now, with Siege, there's a couple of options. But if I'm going to be honest with you, Siege isn't really where the spice is at. Siege is not where people are taking Ogryns competitively. The real secret sauce is mechanized. The mechanized assault detachment is quickly being dubbed the unofficial auxiliary detachment because of the way its armored fist detachment rule works. Each time an Astra Militarum model from your army makes a ranged attack in a turn in which it disembarked from a transport, add 1 to the wound roll. Now, unlike so many other detachment rules which only affect regiment units or squadron units or platoon units, this just affects any Astra Militarum model from your army. Any. Including Ogryn. And this solves 2 big problems with Ogryns. Firstly, they're relatively slow, but suddenly they're quite fast if they're inside a transport. Now you can put them inside a Chimera and you could have the Ogryns shooting out the top using the firing deck, or you could jump them out of the transport and get that +1 to wound. And I know they're probably going to get nerfed. I know the points increases are going to be coming, but everyone's favorite metal box right now, the MRAP in space, the Taurox. Tauroxes can go 12 inches, they can advance, and the guys inside can still disembark and shoot. A unit of Ogryns inside a Taurox with +1 to wound is amazing. It just means that those Ripper guns, they can really take on anything. Through pure volume, they're going to be a threat to even things like vehicles. With pure volume, the AP and the damage, they're going to be a threat to anything. But even thinking about this in terms of vehicles is kind of outdated because we're kind of moving away from a vehicle and monster meta. And whilst vehicles and monsters are still prevalent in a lot of armies, really it seems that there's a lot of elite infantry, a lot of elite sort of melee infantry running around doing the heavy lifting. This is where Ogryn shine because their strength is sufficient where they're going to be wounding a lot of infantry on 3s natively. And then you get +1 to wounds, they're wounding on 2s. So now the only barrier, the only thing standing in the way of the Ogryns is their kind of shoddy ballistic skill, hit on a 4-up. Obviously you can't order your way around that like you used to be able to, but in mechanized, you can stratagem your way around it. Clear and secure, 1 CP. You do it in your shooting phase, 1 Astra Militarum unit, any unit, so Ogryns qualify, from your army that disembarked from a transport this turn and has not been selected to shoot this phase. Until the end of the phase, each time model in your unit makes an attack that targets a unit within range of an objective marker, you can reroll the hit roll and you can reroll the wound roll. So you've got 18 shots coming from your Ogryn, hitting on 4s, but with full rerolls, probably wounding on 2s or 3s with full rerolls. At AP -2, at damage 2 from a 60-point unit. Bear that in mind. Remember that. This is all coming from a 60-point unit. Even if you factor in the cost of the Taurox, you're still only looking at time of recording at a 125-point unit. That is the same as a Hellhound. And Hellhounds are good. But I think Ogryn, in this situation, outperformed the Hellhound nearly every time. So in summary, Ogryn are a pretty reasonable unit for their points cost at a base level. But what started to make people pay attention to them is there's a few detachments where they can actually get some leverage. And especially inside the mechanized assault attachment, they go from fun and decent to outright deadly and competitive and meta. And this might sound crazy, but I think you could do a lot worse than starting every single mechanized assault list with 3 Tauroxes, with 3 Ogryns on each one. But of course, all of this is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Do you think mech Ogryns is good, or would you prefer foot slogging them around or maybe smoking them up with siege? And if you're not taking mech Ogryns, what do you think is a good choice to go inside your transports? If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to go ahead and smash that like button and also subscribe to never miss an episode. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian glory hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing, truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full time without the incredible and generous support of my members, so thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Alex Dengal, Bon Vert, Lord Pryor, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, Try Again Bragg, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, and August Barney. Seriously guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video, and of course, as always, see you guys next time.